The views expressed in this podcast are the speaker's own and are not the views of This Week in FinTech or any other person or entity. The content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal, business, tax, or investment advice or a recommendation, solicitation, endorsement, or offering by me or anyone else for the sale, subscription, or purchase of securities or for investment advisory services of any kind.
Alex, welcome to today's episode of the This Month in FinTech podcast. It's great to have you on the show today at this crucible moment in FinTech. But first, where are you joining us from today?
Well, Ryan, thanks for having me. It's really good to be here. I am at home today. I just came back from the office a little bit ago in Menlo Park, California. So the Bay Area, heart of Silicon Valley.
Love it. And so I want to start with this new chapter in PayPal's history that you're stewarding. There's a lot to cover here, which we'll get to, but in speaking to a lot of employees about you, I heard one phrase that came up more than any other, and I think it'll help set the scene for this episode. That phrase was customer back. What is customer back that you're bringing to PayPal?
Yeah, well, it's been 20 months or so since I joined the company. It is just such an incredible company and such a privilege to be part of PayPal. But one of the things that is really important to me that I've learned over my career and that I tried to bring to PayPal, and I think we're seeing some momentum, is really that obsession around the customer. And, we talk about it as customer back internally. Look, every company serves lots of stakeholders, right? You've got investors and shareholders that are talking to you all the time. You've got partners that are talking to you all the time. You've got employees that, you're serving. All of them are very vocal. Customers are usually the ones that actually drive the business results. And yet they're the ones that sometimes are the quiet ones. They just, they'll quit if you're not delivering for them, then they just leave. They're not the ones, calling you after an earnings and saying, hey, this is what I needed from the stock. And so when we talk about customer back, it's ensuring that, the customers are actually at the root of everything that we do. They're the ones that have a seat at the table when we're making decisions. It's so easy to think about what the shareholder outcome is going to be. It's actually really hard, and it requires practice and discipline to think about what a decision, a product decision, a financial decision, a pricing decision is going to do to the customer. And so it's just a reminder that in every conversation, in every meeting that we're having, in every discussion, that we're putting the customer at the center of the problem. We're putting the customer at the center of the conversation. And we're falling in love with their problem. And I had a leader that many years ago said, fall in love with the customer's problem and not your solution. And so often we as leaders, it's easy to fall in love with the solution because it foots to a spreadsheet that delivers a great outcome. And then you get it to market and you realize, well, wait, how come nobody adopted this? And you realize, well, you didn't actually understand what the customer problem was. So it's just a reminder. There's no, secret sauce on how to make it work. It's just, you just got to keep reminding everybody in the organization, top to bottom, that, we're here to serve customers. When we serve customers really well, then all the other stakeholders actually get taken care of.
Very, very good advice. And so going a level deeper there, so you joined PayPal over the last 2 or so years. How did you reconfigure the organization? Is it now, a consumer, SMB, enterprise division? How did you define customer? Because you serve so many.
Well, as you just described, organizing around the customers, organizing customer back was one of the first moves that we made. So when I came in, we reorganized so that we actually were serving very clearly our consumer base, our small business base, and our enterprise base, our larger merchants. And each of them has very different needs. And so, having a general manager and a product leader who's thinking about what are the specific needs that the consumer has, what are the specific needs that large enterprises have, and how am I building products and services to be able to deliver them? So that was one of the first moves that we made. To be transparent, we made a lot of leadership changes. I think everyone on my direct staff is new, either new to the company or certainly new to the C-suite and new to the role. Again, to be transparent, what I was looking for is real product leaders, real operators, and innovators that were looking to to fight and compete, right? I mean, fintech is a incredibly competitive space. PayPal, we're sort of the old guard in fintech, right? It's a 25-year-old company, but I came in, I'm less than 2 years in. I want to take the assets that we have, the advantages that we have, and reinvent for the future. So we changed the mission to be all about revolutionizing commerce globally and really thinking about, hey, we're not going to rest on what's made us successful for the last 25 years. We're thinking about what the future holds. So reinvented the mission, rebuilt the leadership team, and then organized the company customer back and really put a focus on innovation and velocity. And I think if you've seen what we've put out into the market in the last year and a half, I'm really proud of the focused energy, the innovation, and the velocity at which we're starting to lead.
Yeah, and I mean, the entire industry has taken note. I think every fintech group chat that I'm in over the last year or two has been, my God, PayPal is shipping. Agentic commerce, quantum leap, advertising, new products. It just continues to grow. And we'll get to those in just a second. There's one thing I want to touch on, because we have a lot of founders and growth stage executives that listen to this show. You came into this multi-billion dollar organization from another massive org as an industry, or not an industry, but a executive outsider, new CEO. What were some tactical lessons or tips that you implemented to bring in this much dramatic change without rocking the boat too much and losing some of PayPal's core?
You have to be humble enough to realize that what you're doing is you're standing on the shoulders of giants. And I mean, there's just a whole train of unbelievable executives that have built the company to where it is. That said, I told the board, and the conversation I had when they hired me was, if you're looking for a caretaker to just continue the business, please don't choose me. That is not the role that I want, and that's not what I'm good at. If you want someone that's going to transform and compete and figure out what the future looks like, that's what gets me jumping out of bed every morning. So in order to do that, first, I went on a very comprehensive listening tour, which included deep conversations with customers on a global basis, conversations with investors, conversations with partners, really talking to all the stakeholders, and then obviously talking to employees and understanding, what makes PayPal special, what is the secret sauce that is working, and then what's getting in your way, what is really slowing you down, what's making your job as an employee harder. When we talked to shareholders, it was, what are you excited about and what's getting in the way? And just having that deep listening tour, you really start to see patterns. And I feel like for any leader, we all know that being curious and asking great questions gives us the ability to then see patterns across themes, across stakeholders. And then at some point, you got to put your stamp on it and you got to have some conviction and write it down and say, this is the direction we're going to go. And I think one of the things that's most important, especially early in any new leader's tenure, is having real clarity and conviction of the direction of the organization. So we narrowed down the priorities from what felt like a few dozen to 5. And we said, this is what we're going to focus on. And the time horizons shrank for everyone, and that made things uncomfortable. But we were going to say, look, we're going to put the weight of the organization behind these 5 things, and we're going to go after it. It's allowed us to be very focused. It's allowed us to put our energy. It's allowed us to be very transparent with the external market so they can hold us accountable for what we said we were going to do. And we're starting to really see the results there.
Mm-hmm. And quickly, what are those 5?
We've talked about ensuring that our branded checkout was front and center. This is something that's been clear to the organization that we needed to focus on. So ensuring that branded checkout is where we wanted to be. And we could talk about lots of different gaps in the product there, but I feel really good about the momentum there. Moving into omnichannel, which is a big change from where the organization has been in the past. It's serving customers where they are. Again, talking customer back. We've been known for serving e-commerce, but really being able to deliver for customers everywhere that they want to buy. Really improving the value proposition. So from a rewards perspective, from a loyalty perspective, just making it more obvious as to why you would want to use PayPal or use Venmo exactly where you wanted to be. So a real loyalty and rewards program. And then thinking about the future, like what is the future rails? How does crypto work? How should we be leaning into stablecoins? What is the future of what we want from an e-commerce perspective, which can include Agentic as well? And then lastly, we were being slowed down. We've done a lot of incredible acquisitions. We've started a lot of projects, but you've got to have a common platform. And in a world where, the advantage that we have in fintech is the scale of our business, right? We've got a quarter of e-commerce running through PayPal. When that's fragmented and you don't have one common customer data set or one common risk platform or one common ability to authenticate someone in one area of the product and step them up on a risk provision somewhere and have that flow through all of your different products, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And so we really focused on how do we create one PayPal platform. And those are the original. We've evolved them over time as, things like Agentic weren't even on the radar 18 months ago, to be transparent. But here we are now just, continuing to keep that laser focus.
That's awesome. And yeah, it's funny, Brandon. I was just on with someone earlier today. I was like, Agentic was not a word 18 months ago. Voice AI was not a concept 18 months ago. And so it's quite a nimble time.
I mean, not even 18 months ago. February, we did an investor day, and I had on a slide Agentic Commerce. I didn't get a single question about, we were going to work in online, offline, and agentic. Right. And I talked about it and did a demo at Investor Day in February. 0 questions, not a single follow-up question. April, we did a fintech conference with investors. 45 of every 60-minute conversation was about agentic commerce. It's absolutely turned on a dime.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, I'm about to add to that count because I do want to jump into agentic commerce. To your point, probably no bigger buzzword across fintech, e-com, consumer payments marketplace right now in the Valley. We've seen launches from you. We've seen launches from the card networks, other PSPs, e-com platforms, and more. How is PayPal positioning itself to lead, especially as one of the few platforms that has both consumer and wallet and then checkout?
You're hearing a lot from us because I think we are incredibly excited about this next move. This really feels like, if you think about what e-commerce did, just enabling consumers and merchants to now actually discover and make purchases online in a frictionless area. I mean, that's really where PayPal started to accelerate and really was born. This feels like that kind of, if not even bigger, evolution. So this is our opportunity to really lean in and paint the future. What we're excited about is consumers and merchants have unique needs. We have them at scale, and it's one of the things that makes PayPal, was one of the things that drew me to the company, was a two-sided network at massive scale. So, serving, close to 500 million consumers around the world, serving 30, 40 million merchants around the world, and being able to now enable them to find each other, find in a personalized way, find the right product at the right time, at the right price, and enabling AI to do all of that for you, I think is absolutely an exceptional opportunity. And when I look at how consumers are starting to adopt AI, they really are just having these conversational commerce discussions where, it could be about finding the next travel or finding the next product, and just being able to describe exactly what they want, and then not have to go spend time searching through the web to find exactly what they need, but being able to just have the AI go do that work. Now, that's the good news, right? That's what sounds amazing. That's what gets us excited. That's the sort of like, close your eyes, you can imagine it, wonderful. Now let's talk about all the problems with that. And when I say problems, I mean opportunity. Because when we find problems, what PayPal's really good at is making it frictionless and reducing those challenges. So the problems with that is, okay, so how does a merchant expose their catalog to an AI without losing the direct connection with their customer, right? I mean, that doesn't work today. And so, there is a very clear model that's been established over the last 15 years. If you're a merchant, you put some inventory in, you create a website, you go buy some keywords, you kind of know, if I spend a little bit more on keywords, I get the right customers, hopefully they're targeted customers, and then I can optimize my conversion. And like, there's a little bit of an ROI calculation that's very tried and true. In an AI, how does that work? So I expose my catalog. How do I know who I'm competing against? How do I know what customers are coming? If the AI is making a purchase, do I even get to know who that customer is? Do I get to have a follow-up and a relationship with them? Or am I just selling a widget to somebody that I don't know?
Right.
And that is, we need to solve that problem. And again, PayPal has, if you really think about what we've established over 25 years, we have the world's largest commerce LLM. We have over 80% of e-commerce in a catalog that we can start to really A, enable the AI agents to be able to get access to, but B, what we put out with our being the first with a remote MCP server is really enabling the merchants to still have agency over the customers and a relationship with their customers. So that's on the merchant side and the agent side. Now let's talk about the consumer side. It sounds magical to just speak into your phone and have your agent go off and make a purchase for you. But how do you trust the agent to have
I just
access
had
to
this problem
do that?
on Sunday. I was trying to buy tuxedo shoes for a
Yeah.
wedding, and I didn't trust the agent. I had to go manually verify myself, want to make sure we got the right size, right shipping address, right form, everything.
Everything you just talked about is we've sort of grown accustomed to, but oh my gosh, like usually you've got multiple instruments. How does the agent know whether you want to use a certain credit card, a reward credit card, a debit card, buy now, pay later? Is it optimized for the rewards that you're getting? Right? We'll get there. And I think PayPal, is building a smart wallet that will enable that. But that's a problem that needs to get solved. Then there's all the things that, as you just described, are in the back of consumers' minds, like how would I do a return? How will I do shipping tracking? How will I do, what happens if there's fraud? What happens if I bought this thing and it turns out that the tuxedo you just bought, was made out of velvet and you didn't want velvet tuxedo, and all of a sudden you want to return it? How is that all going to work? And to be honest, the agents that we've talked to, and we're working with all of them. You saw we did an announcement with Perplexity, which we're really excited about, and we're working with all the agents, but they're focused on AGI. They're focused on how do we build, the future. That's what they should be focused on. They're coming to players like us and specifically PayPal because we've got both sides of the ecosystem. We know how to connect the dots and we can enable them. So I'm really excited because I do think this is going to create new opportunities for merchants and for consumers. But there's a lot of the details to actually work out to make it as magical as we all hope it'll be.
Right. And then can we go a level deeper into, some product announcements that have happened, PayPal MCP, the agent toolkit, even Quantum Leap? What are some of these announcements now going to enable in the future for merchants and shoppers?
Yeah, so let me hit on a couple of those different things. So Quantum Leap is one that you talked about. This is really one that we came out with a little over a year ago. What it is a reinvention of our branded checkout. And so it's really, again, streamlining what we put out with, over a decade ago, which is, that iconic PayPal button that everyone knows and loves. But now how do we use more modern tools like biometrics and an API that it's able to identify if you're a PayPal user and be able to then say, hey, by the way, this merchant wants to be able to give you a reward because they know that you're a new customer to them. So all of the data, all of that personalization that's now built into our APIs and services is really what we think about when we think about that Quantum Leap experience. That all gets now exposed with these remote MCP servers and our agentic toolkit. So how do we now take really the APIs and the secret sauce that usually PayPal is having a one-to-one relationship with the merchant and enable an agent to be able to grab that and have that conversation between the merchant and then ultimately the consumer. And so, the best part about an MCP server is it allows agents to get access to this work without having to go build all those integrations, right? If any agent decided, okay, well, I want all the commerce out there, I'm going to go, connect all to all the merchants. When you think about the head, the torso, and the tail of millions of merchants, it would take them, over a decade. I mean, that's what we've been doing. And so instead of having to go one by one through merchants, they get access to PayPal's network of merchants instantly. And then they're able to allow the agents, as they're thinking through and processing what the consumer request is, to actually call in real time, our APIs and the data that we have. And now we'll continue to build on it. We'll continue to make it more robust, but it's enabling that conversation in real time between consumers and merchants, all facilitated by the agents. And it's really exciting. Again, we just talked about it in February. We launched it, I think, sort of end of April, beginning of May. We've got partners now that are coding against it and launching to customers. And I think as we get through the summer and fall, at least from an agent capability perspective, it's going to be there. From a consumer adoption perspective,
Right.
your guess is as good as mine. It could be, I mean, I think people are going to dabble with it. I think they're going to have the same reaction you did, which is, how much trust do I have?
Right.
Our perspective is PayPal and Venmo are trusted brands that have built, decades of legacy of trust and safety and security. And so when we put something out with our guarantees on the connection with a merchant, it matters. And again, all these merchants that are available through our ecosystem are ones that we've onboarded, are the ones that we validated. And so, that from a fraud perspective, we stand behind the services that we put out.
Yeah, I do have to say, anytime I'm on, I don't know, more fringe frontier websites and I see the PayPal checkout button, that is one of the times I will use it with 100% certainty versus regular shopping. And I do have one last question here on Agentic. I mean, we could talk the whole rest of the episode on this, but how is your team kind of grokked the build buy partner decisioning so far, right? There's so many opportunities out there, a lot of early stage companies that have been formed, a lot of partnerships you've already decided, and then of course, given all the new product velocity at PayPal, how did you rally your team to think about this?
I think having a very robust inorganic roadmap is always something that we have running. The reality of AI right now is it's moving so fast that there isn't proven technology that's out there that's 3-4 years advanced that from a tech perspective makes a lot of sense to acquire in agentic commerce, because it's just all so new. We also can't wait. And the velocity in which we're talking internally, I wish I could tell our teams like, hey, it's just a moment in time and then it's going to slow down and all that. It's just not.
It's probably not.
It's just not. Now, the good news is we're bringing in our own tools and technology. We're leveraging AI internally.
Right.
Our efficiency is going up. But we talk about velocity and we talk about just the pace of innovation and the pace of what we need to put out. We talk about that at my leadership team every time we get together. And for someone that loves product and loves innovating and loves delivering for customers, like there's nothing more exciting, but it's real and it's probably never going to slow down. We're just going to get used to it at this pace. It's like we were running an 8-minute mile and now we're going to run a 6-minute mile and then we're going to run a 4-minute mile. And pretty soon you're running a 4-minute mile for a marathon. And that's just how it works.
So true. We're all feeling it. It doesn't matter what industry you're in right now. I think we're all trying to run that sprint the marathon, as you said. Well, I'd love to actually double click on some of the threads that you left on AI. This is probably the biggest buzz of all, more than agentic commerce, more than stablecoins. I'd love to understand where specifically PayPal is deploying AI to create value across, your two-sided network and data footprint, especially.
Yeah. I mean, we've got AI across the entire ecosystem. So right now, significant investment internally. As you can imagine, we have data sets that are massive. This is not only for risk and fraud and making sure that our customers are protected, our merchants are protected, but it's also customer service. We've rolled out customer service agents that can answer customers' questions. Right? People want to know, where's my money?
Right.
How do I get a refund? Just the basics that you
And
would
is
want.
that chat, voice, or both? Or email?
It's chat. It's moving to voice because customers are getting more comfortable with voice.
Right.
And that's been a big change. A year ago, voice AI
wasn't even a thing.
It wasn't a thing, and customers weren't loving it. They wanted to talk to a human. Right. We still have a lot of incredible employees that answer questions. But now, as AI is ramping up, we're getting more and more customers that love chat and then are saying, well, wait a second, I'm used to talking to an agent on my phone. I want to talk to an agent, like give me an AI agent. And so we're evolving very quickly to deliver for customers. We're deploying AI for our own employees. And this is not just engineering. This is across the entire employee base.
Right. I've heard it's an EVA, right? Is what I've heard.
Yeah, EVA is what we've named our, think of it as sort of our orchestration layer internally, which has access to every single model you can think of. Every model has its own unique characteristics. We wanted to give all the models to our employees, but we needed to have an orchestration layer and one interface for employees to get access. And this orchestration layer also then has access to all of our internal data. So you actually get to have, a protected conversation where you can really get work done. But we're seeing, efficiency gains, obviously for engineering, but across every function, our designers, our marketers, our product leaders, our support leaders, like everybody right now, sales, tremendous efficiency gains as we're starting to leverage AI. And I'm really, I'm just noticing a bit of a shift from a mindset. Before it was a little bit of employees holding back saying, yeah, I get AI, I think it's going to be helpful. If I have a question that I'm stumped on, or maybe a task that seems to be inefficient, maybe I'll leverage AI for it. We're really starting to flip into that AI native mindset where we're saying, look, let's just start. Let's go to the tools first. Let's leverage AI to be solving the problems that we need. I wouldn't say we're bright green on that yet, but we're definitely heading in that direction. And then for customers and merchants, that's where I get really excited because we talked about the smart wallet, like the ability to leverage AI. We talked to customers and said, hey, how do you make a decision on which instrument to choose when you make a purchase? And the feedback we got time and time again as we would have conversations with consumers is they have no idea. And they're actually overwhelmed, right? They all have reward cards, they've got debit cards, they've got buy now, pay later options, they've got a million different options at every checkout. And we said, well, look, if we could tell you and give you more information, make you smarter when you make that decision, so that hey, if you're making that airline ticket, you actually get these reward points with this instrument. But if you're buying, these concert tickets, you get a different level if you used a different
The
instrument.
Holy Grail. Yeah.
Like if we could give you that kind of intelligence in real time, how much more empowered would you be? And we put that to a test and ran a quick experiment where we actually leveraged AI to inform the consumer. We saved hundreds of millions of dollars in consumer spend by them being able to just route the decisions by
It's
being
incredible.
more thoughtful in their choice. So we're just scratching the surface of what that can look like.
Mhm.
And then on the merchant side, same thing. Like, how do they know who to go after, right? We launched an ad platform. We have over 80 million consumers that have opted in based on the trust that they have with PayPal to be able to share some of their profile data. Giving that to merchants to then be able to say, hey, tell me the cohort of customers you want. Would you be willing to pay more to acquire that customer? And if so, what's the reward that you'd be willing to give them? And leveraging AI to be able to automate that customer acquisition, raising their ROI, lowering their CAC, and giving them real access to their limited marketing spend to drive the results that they want. So again, we're super excited about how to leverage AI across the whole ecosystem.
Makes sense. And then what hurdles still exist for enterprise adoption?
I'm thinking a lot about the traditional org design. I think is going to have to get disrupted. We have a very clear sort of, just like most organizations, kind of a pyramid structure. You've got managers, you've got people on teams, those teams continue. I think that org design shifts when you now have agents that are enabling employees to be so much more effective and efficient. And I think we're going to find a flatter org structure. We're going to find more employees that have larger breadth and scope in their jobs because they actually now have access to expertise and tools that they probably didn't even have before, and they had to, work in a certain type of team in order to get things done. But now they actually have a team of agents available for them. And so they can own more. And I think that's actually going to be really empowering for employees to be able to say, hey, you get to work maybe from a large team to now a smaller team of employees, but with a large team of specialized agents around you. But now you have full ability to solve an end-to-end problem as an employee. I think that's going to be really, really exciting. So I think that's going to be a big unlock, and it's going to change the way people adopt the tools. But I don't think we can just take, traditional org models, add tools, and expect that we're going to get the right outcome. I think we're going to have to really rethink the design of organizations.
Makes sense. And now let's jump to the third big theme of the moment, which is crypto and stablecoins. PayPal is really, in my opinion, one of the first large tech companies to really lean in to crypto, kind of pre-COVID hype. I'm curious, we'll start with on the consumer side. Where are PayPal and Venmo trying to integrate crypto into their day-to-day products?
So first, you're right. We launched our own stablecoin, PYUSD. I think we were one of the first to really get out there in a very highly regulated environment. We worked through our state pathway with the New York FDS and just really wanted to make this thing representative of what a PayPal product would look like, where everything is backed one-to-one, and we felt really, really good about it. Here's my belief on the reality of stablecoins. This is not a cure-all for all of financial services, but it is a really, really important product for some really big problems that exist today. So when I think about domestic payments, domestic peer-to-peer, it kind of works pretty well. Right. I mean, yes, we could use stablecoin, but there's kind of a lot. There's an education element, there's a replacement element. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, will we get there? Maybe, but that's not the first thing that we're going to go solve. A US consumer buying from a US merchant, yeah, we'll make it available, but I don't see there's going to be a ton of adoption there in the short term. Now, when you start to talk about cross-border transactions, when you start to talk about merchants that are in high inflationary geographies, and we started to go to them and say, hey, if you could get paid, we could do a currency conversion for you, or would you want to get paid in PYUSD? And you'll have all the liquidity you need to be able to make conversion to local fiat if you want. But would you want to hold PYUSD? And then would you want to be able to make other B2B payments, if you need to pay vendors, cross-border or anything else with PYUSD as well? That starts to unlock huge savings for these merchants. And from a consumer standpoint, huge potential savings in cross-border peer-to-peer transactions and purchases as well. So we're really excited about it because there's just a lot of friction, speed, trust, safety, and fees in cross-border transactions right now that I think we're going to be in a really advantageous part with both sides of the ecosystem to be able to really make an impact on over the coming months.
Mm-hmm. And on that cross-border and that international side, and PayPal has such strong international presence, do you feel yourself facing a bit of that innovator's dilemma, right? Because there is big fee pools, traditional rails that PayPal has such strong strength in, and now you're going to be almost leapfrogging existing global financial infrastructure to this new piece.
I invoke innovator's dilemma probably like twice a week inside of the organization. And to me, that is, first, it's a mindset. Second of all, it's the thing that gets us the most excited because yes, will we disrupt potential revenue pools that we have today? Absolutely. But the size of the prize is much larger than where we're playing today. And so when I think about what pie can we play after, I'd rather go after a good slice of a much, much larger pie than hold on to the slice of a small pie that we have today. And so it's something we have to talk about. It's something that we have to reconcile. But I'll give you an example. We rolled out the ability for our consumers and merchants to be able to convert some of their balance in Venmo and PayPal into PYUSD if they want and earn rewards off of that balance. We make money on their balance right now, right? So that's giving up revenue that we have that we're holding now and giving it back to consumers if they want to convert. Mm-hmm. That was the conversation we had. It was a very clear-eyed decision that we made. And for us, it's starting to seed a better ecosystem for the future because we believe, hey, this will actually drive, especially for merchants, more balance actually being held inside of the ecosystem. You add that to some of the product launches we've got now with, bill pay and more ability for B2B transactions to happen. And all of a sudden we start to create this ecosystem of stablecoin transactions at high volume and high velocity. That's a bigger pie for us. So listen, as a company, it's the blessing and the curse of being 25 years old and 30 plus $billion in revenue is you're doing something right. And so there's always that challenge of what are you going to disrupt? Yep. I'm looking for, how are we going to 10x the position that we're in right now? And in order to do that, let's play bigger games and let's be willing to disrupt ourselves.
Absolutely. And it is funny, we keep saying 25 years as if it's such an ancient company. It's really not that long ago.
It's really not, but it's funny.
Things change quickly.
I go to business councils, I sit on these things, I look at all the companies around me, and we are by far the youngest company in that cohort. And then you look at the fintech world and we're like the granddaddy of fintech. And so
Right.
it's this funny balance that we go back and forth on. But the thing that gets me again most excited is this first wave of evolution of fintech to get to where we are, I think was the infancy. And so it's exciting to be a 30 plus $billion company in revenue in the infancy of fintech. What's going to happen over the next 10 to 15 years is going to be this move to adulthood, which is going to just transform as everything moves into online
Right.
or agentic. And we want to be the leaders to be able to transform there.
I have one more question on stables here. We've had a pretty, depends on the adjective you want to word, dynamic regulatory landscape over the last few years. What has this new regulatory regime, which has been so progressive, really globally on crypto, unlocked for PayPal that maybe was not available in the past?
We were moving forward. We're not a tiny startup. We're not someone that's going to go run an offshore account just to be able to get this done. So we were moving through the regulatory hurdles, and we were very successful. As you mentioned before, we launched a stablecoin that was regulated and well perceived. The challenge is when you had regulatory headwinds, just the overall industry adoption is limited. And so with the new stance, with the momentum that we're seeing right now, I think we're just going to see an acceleration. And I like the position that we're in when consumer, merchant, bank, overall, even government adoption is going to go up because then we can really start to accelerate. So we were involved in working with government on the construction of the Genius Act and that bill. So we're really excited about this momentum. And again, I don't think when you really, I mean, let's be honest, the current stablecoin it's mostly traders that are taking advantage right now. What I get excited about is when do consumers and merchants really start to get into this game? That's going to take some time. And it's going to have to be focused on where is the biggest friction. And again, go back to that working customer back. The problem
Right.
that we're going to fall in love with first is high fee, high friction in cross-border
Right.
transactions. That's a big thing that we can solve.
Absolutely. And now I want to switch gears a little bit as we head to the last section of the episode. I want to turn it, more to you as an individual and leader, starting with the place where you really grew up as an executive at Intuit. Intuit has built, from the outside at least, a pretty incredible leadership factory. Many execs had long tenures in Intuit and then land at phenomenal roles at other companies like you did yourself. What made it a long-term home for you and such an effective training ground as a leader?
Yeah, incredible company, and sort of had two big elements that came together that I think just worked really well to train me and many other leaders. One was, this real product customer obsession. And I give a lot of credit to Scott Cook, who's the founder, who, still is involved on a day-to-day basis and just obsesses about customers and obsesses about how to build great frictionless products for customers. The other thing that the company really invested in was leadership development. And I was an entrepreneur before I joined. I joined at a relatively young age and wasn't even I joined to help run a startup there and figured I'd be there 2 or 3 years and then go start something else and ended up staying for almost 20 years. And the reason was every time I thought about leaving, I realized how much I was learning and how much the company was investing in me to both give me new, bigger, challenging opportunities, but also just learning how to be a leader, learning how to operate, learning how to just do things that I could have learned maybe on my own. But I knew that, eventually, the investment they were making in me would just make me a better leader. And so, that deep customer obsession and that learning ecosystem were two things that I think makes the company special. And then we've seen a lot of great executives come out of Intuit and be leaders across the industry right now. And I think, it is a factory that I hope to replicate here at PayPal as well and build the next, future great leaders.
That's awesome. And then you did eventually leave and take this great role as CEO of PayPal. Was there a specific moment or conversation that convinced you to take this leap?
I was not planning on leaving. I think the thing that got me most excited about PayPal was I love network effects and I love two-sided ecosystems. And I have a passion for small businesses, which is what I've focused on for a while. the scale that PayPal operates on a global basis is really hard to ignore. I also, after a while being at a company, you get a little bit comfortable, and I knew how to operate in the old role. I wanted to see if, hey, of all this stuff that I just learned, all these things that I'm passionate about, could I help transform a company that I think has the potential to be one of the greatest technology organizations for the next 2 decades? And that's what brought me out. What a privilege it is to be at PayPal and be able to, lead not only an iconic company from the past, but one that I think is going to transform the future.
Absolutely. And then final question before we jump to a rapid fire round. Now, as CEO of one of the most consequential technology companies in the world, how do you structure your day?
Oh, that could be a
If at
long
all,
answer,
yeah.
but
Like an
I'll
operating
give you
system.
I'll give you the short version. Here are the things I think a lot about. One, it's really important to me to get an external perspective. So I spend a lot of time, particularly early in the morning, just looking outside, getting inspiration for not only what competitors and peers are doing, but just what's happening in the industry. Like I've always felt like you just learn so much, even outside of fintech, just what's happening in the world that you can be learning from. So making sure I've got an outside in perspective. I have an incredible leadership team, so making sure that they are well cared for, focused, that I'm providing the support that I need. Obviously, that's a big part of my day. I spend a lot of time with our external stakeholders. So whether that's investors or our partners, we work with a lot of large merchants, a lot of large partners. So making sure that they understand and we're aligned on our strategy and working together. And then, really spending time with employees. We are an incredibly broad global organization, and it's critical that I spend time going to different sites, sitting down with employees, going deep on, frontline employees, what again is getting in your way, and really having that listening and learning mentality so that, we're constantly getting better and evolving.
Great. And so, Alex, you've made it to the final part of the interview, which is the rapid fire question round here. Have you about 10 or so questions, replies, kind of no longer than 10, 30 seconds. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So a couple of dovetailing off that last answer. High stakes, high volume job, probably limited free time. How do you stay grounded?
Spend a lot of time with family when I can, when I'm not traveling. I try to keep my workouts going.
What do you do?
I've got a gym in the garage, so I have no excuses. I do some version of a CrossFit type of situation that I've been doing for the last 10, 15 years. And then if I get any chance to cook, cook a meal for friends or family, I'll do that. But that's about it.
Got it. Go-to dish?
I'll cook anything, but if it's warm out and I can grill and
Grill.
get some steaks on the barbecue, I'll
Yeah.
do that.
Ultimate dad mode. I love it.
Yeah.
And then going back to the family ties, do you ever lean on family for product inspiration or testing?
I've got 3 boys of teenage age.
Oh, harsh critics. Yeah.
They're the best because anytime I think, oh yeah, I'm really advanced in AI or things like that, I just watch what they're doing, and I'm watching them have like deep emotional conversations with an agent.
That's
And
crazy.
realizing,
Voice?
oh yeah, yeah, just having conversations, and so all the things that we just it just makes you feel old, and you realize the products that we're going to build for the future. If you don't believe that people are going to be doing agentic commerce by just having a conversation and having it work, having an agent do something on their behalf, go watch an 18-year-old
Right.
have a conversation with their agent. You've lost the plot. Like, it's going to
That's
happen.
crazy. Awesome. All right. Next question, maybe throwing back to your teenage years. What was the first job that you ever had?
I grew up playing tennis. My first paid job was stringing tennis rackets in a tiny little sweat box of a tennis shop.
It's gritty. All right. Next one. You founded a business, as you mentioned. What is the biggest lesson you learned as a founder that still sticks with you?
What's funny is I founded a business right in college. I went to Kinko's and put a CEO on the business card.
Must have
So
felt great.
anybody can be CEO. All you have to do is make a business card and put your title on it. It is not the title that makes the CEO. It is what your people look at you as. And so you want to be a real leader. You got to learn to lead people. And at 18, 19 years old, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. Hopefully, I've learned how to do it a little bit better at this point. It is not the title that makes the CEO.
Awesome. All right, next one. And this one, it's been such an earworm, this Will Ferrell commercial that you all put out. I want to pay with you everywhere. It's like killing me. What is
Yeah.
the genesis of that story? And did you get to meet Will?
Our consumer team, our marketing team, Diego Scotti, Jeff Seeley, these guys are just unbelievable. And, when I came in, one of the big things I wanted to do was reinvent and reinvigorate the PayPal brand. And we wanted to go out and find someone iconic that spoke to, a global audience at all
Every
age
generation.
ranges
Yeah,
and all generations. And Will Ferrell's about everybody loves
it's
Will. And
universal.
so they did an incredible job. I did get to spend time with him. We actually brought him to one of our all hands at PayPal Park in San Jose. He
Oh,
came
wow.
up and did a whole bit where he told the audience of employees that I invited him there because I was making him the new CEO, which was fantastic.
That's
And
pretty
again,
cool.
he's exactly how you would expect, the nicest, most down to earth. Obviously invests heavily in his craft
Right.
and just an exceptional guy.
Love that. All right, switching gears a little bit, going to the interview side of things. You interviewed a lot of folks, I'm sure, to bring them on to PayPal, as you alluded to at the beginning of the episode. What is your go-to or must-ask interview question?
I usually want to know what gives people energy. Like I really want to know, these are hard jobs, especially at the senior levels. Like these are
Mhm.
hard jobs, these are grinds. And when you can really tap into the motivations for people, it's important. And it's important because it aligns culturally. And so, even to use the simplicity of, trying to root out, are they a mercenary or a missionary? And the answer, it doesn't matter from like who they are. Like I have no judgment of what their answer is. But if what makes them tick is not aligned with what we're trying to drive from a mission perspective, then it's kind of just a matter of time until we end up with some sort of conflict. When we can align our values and we can align culturally on what's going to get them to work above and beyond, to get them to jump out of bed in the morning and do an incredible job, when that's aligned with what I want for the organization, things work out really well. So those are the kind of things that I'm probing on.
Is there any question you ask that susses it out other than what motivates you? Like
I
how do you
mean,
grab it?
usually it's sort of like, hey, where do you get your energy from? Like, why do you do what you do? And you'll be surprised. I mean, you have an answer in your head.
Right.
Um, it's not the universal answer. I mean, I'll tell you that. Again, I have people that when they answer that question, they go, I want a yacht. I want a yacht in the Mediterranean, and
Right.
I plan on working for the next 15 years to be able to afford that yacht. And it's like, hey, more power to you. That's a fantastic answer. That's not aligned with what I'm trying to drive, but it's
Right.
great that I know that that's what motivates you. Um, that is what it is. And so I think you could just ask, like, usually some pretty simple questions to understand what makes the person tick.
Awesome. All right. And then last question for you, Alex. Who is your dream guest that you would love to hear on a future episode of the This Month in FinTech podcast?
I mean, there's so much fun stuff going on right now. The person that, I've gotten to know a little bit that I think, probably 3, 6, 9 months from now is doing some really fun things is you should talk to Aravind from Perplexity. Uh,
Yes.
I think Perplexity, we've obviously done a great partnership with them. We've got commerce coming
Right.
into Perplexity. I also think they've done an incredible job on the financial services side,
Mhm.
in terms of being able to, I mean, I use Perplexity now to do finance research
Yes. They just launched
on different stocks. It's
yes.
it's really
So
good. It's really good. And getting his perspective as to why did he go down that path? Where does he think the differentiation is? What could commerce look like? I think he'd be a fun guest to have, 6 months from
yeah,
now.
that's a great one because we've also, Anthropic just announced their financial services offering. We're trying to see how they're thinking about things as well. Well, great recommendation. We might take you up on that one. Well, Alex,
Awesome.
I know we're at time here. I want to thank you for coming on this episode of This Month in FinTech podcast. Fantastic having you on and sharing your story with our global audience.
So good to be here. Thanks again, Ryan, and hope we can talk again soon.
Thank you.